Hello and welcome to the Homesick to Happy Movers podcast. I'm Keisha, your host, and today we're talking about moving, finding meaning in life, and strategies for reducing stress during the move. My friend Kelsey Taylor is here. Kelsey, thank you for coming onto the podcast. I'm very excited to talk with you. Kelsey is a military spouse, a mom of two children. She is certified in EFT, Batch Flower Remedies, Level 1 and 2, Chakra Healing, Viktor Frankl Mind, Body, and Soul Life Coaching. And she has a background in opioid abuse as an opioid abuse nurse. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so can you share with the listeners about what your journey has been on all things moving?
Okay, all things moving. So I was married really young. I decided to get married when I was 19. My husband is 6 years older than me. I moved to Kentucky. It was a bit of a culture shock. I'm from a small town in Texas. Um, I don't think I was completely ready for it in a lot of ways. Looking back on it, was a huge learning experience for me.
Yeah.
I was younger than the other military spouses that my husband was connected to, and we didn't have kids, but I really didn't connect with a lot of the single people that I was meeting at the college I was attending because I was married and not really involved in the single lifestyle anymore. So I was kind of in this weird holding place. So I don't think I thrived as much as I could have looking back on it and that on that move. We were supposed to be there for like 3 months. That was what I was told when we moved there. So I was kind of hanging out for 3 months. We ended up being there for 8 months. So that was new, kind of the not knowing what's going to happen and how to live in that space. I'm much better with that now, but I think I was kind of waiting around just to move.
Okay.
And so it's an adjustment. You have to really learn how to live in the moment and what can you accomplish in the here and now and what you have.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then go ahead.
Oh, and I was just gonna say, like, when we're expecting that we only have 3 months, sometimes we don't put down roots and connect because we think we're just gonna move. And then when we don't, it's almost like, what do I do now?
I know I missed so much time and really I missed out on experiences and people because of that, because I was really not putting down roots because I was expecting to leave.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, but then we moved to North Carolina. I finished up college and started a family here. I also was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder here. So that was probably the most challenging part of moving, was being away from the most supportive people and who could help me the most with a family and experiencing all of what that was. So that was kind of, it stalled a big part of my time here. But I've had a lot of learning experience in North Carolina. We
Yeah.
moved states twice together, which is a little unusual for a military couple. Usually you move more states than that. I missed all of the fun PCSs with him. I came in a little late for that. Um, so I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. We moved houses 4 times now, and then we're getting ready to go on our biggest transition and move right now. We're in the process of that. So he's retiring.
Yeah. How does this transition feel in comparison to your first transition?
In comparison, I think it's very liberating because we have the choice of where we go now. It's not the government telling us where to go and how long we have to be there. We really get to choose where we want to be and how we can thrive in that environment. We're both like more Midwest people, and we've been on the East Coast for a really long time. So I'm excited. We're both excited.
And as we were talking before, you're moving into a fifth wheel trailer, correct?
Actually, it's a little smaller than that.
Yes.
It's not a fifth wheel. No, it's 28 feet. It's like the next
Okay.
size down.
Okay.
So definitely based on necessities, which
Mhm.
we're totally fine with. So
Yeah.
we are moving into an RV and going to homeschool to take off the pressure of the military transition and really figuring out how to reintegrate into the civilian lifestyle.
Yes. Yeah. It sounds like such a fun adventure too. And
I
going
think
out and doing it as a family.
yes, it's going to be a very unique opportunity, and we're really excited to be able to go on this adventure together, especially after being away from each other so much that we are able to have the quality time and really figure out life together.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you were mentioning your first move and how you moved and you felt like you really didn't fit in with the other military spouses and you didn't fit in with the people you were meeting at college, um, that sounds like a very disconnected and lonely time. And that's often what people experience when they move and they expect connection and there isn't any. Could you speak more to that experience?
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up. It was very isolating. Um, what I learned from that was because I was looking for my people, the same people that I had in Texas.
Mm.
I was looking for that same lifestyle, those same hobbies, and they weren't there. So, I mean, it was a whole new culture, the subcultures were different. And so, because I didn't find it there, I became more introverted, which is pretty natural for me. I'm pretty shy at times. So I just kind of reverted back into that. And now it's more of, well, what can I learn that's new? What new experience can I try? Where can I gain a new perspective? With who? What can I learn about other people and their perspective? What can they teach me about life? And if you're looking for like the new experiences within things, I think it's much more easier to cope and it's not as isolating. And I take on a much heavier growth mindset now. I think whenever you live in one town all your life, you adapt to that mindset and that's really all you have. But when you start moving, you start gaining perspective and you're more cultured and you are able to really experience the world and what it has to offer.
Mhm.
So just taking on that growth mindset really, I think, can get you out of the isolation.
Yeah. And when you said that you were moving, when you moved, you were looking for your people that you had back at home. And I feel like that statement is so powerful because that's exactly what I was doing. When I moved, I was like, okay, like where are my three best friends to hang out with? And like my best friends are gonna be into adventuring and they're gonna be into like all these things that they were back home. Um, and I feel like what that does is it makes your circle so small. Like the opportunity for friendship becomes very, very small for versus when we open up to new experiences like you were talking about and doing something new and our friends look different and they have different views and like then you're open to so many more friendships.
Right. It's such a limiting belief. And looking back on it now, I can see, well, that was fear based.
Mm.
At the root of it, it was fear of changing and fear of really opening myself up
Yeah.
because that's a big change. But then you get stuck in the homesickness and, it's not a healthy place to be.
Mhm. Yeah. Could you speak to what homesickness looked like for you?
At that time, I really just isolated myself,
Mm,
with the not knowing when I was going to leave. I had like a couple of friends, but we were just in really different places in life.
mhm,
So it was so hard to connect with people because, well, I'm going to invest in all of this time with somebody and leave in, a few
mhm.
weeks, a month, who knows?
Yeah.
And me now, I would have taken the opportunity and invested in that relationship a little bit more. I think I was really staying in contact with people more at home. And so it was kind of keeping me there instead of moving forward.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, I feel like our stories are like mirroring each other a lot too. When I first made my first big move, like where I could not travel home, I was states away. Um, I did the same thing. I kept in contact with people at home more than I invested where I was. And besides my phone calls, I really did self isolate because um, making friends was hard, or so I thought. That's like the word that I was telling myself was it's hard. And I feel like that's such a common thing for new movers, um, is to find themselves in a situation that looks different than they expected and isolating instead of um, developing those roots in the community.
Right. I think it's so much about sanctifying your time and being in the present because I was either looking back or being connected into the past or thinking, well, my people are not here now in this place, but we're going to move. So my people must be there. And
Mm,
really,
mhm,
I really missed out on a lot in the present. I don't know what I missed out on, because I was at home,
mhm,
studying and telling myself, well, I'm just going to, focus on college
mhm,
and excel in that. That was really an excuse. And I was trying to navigate being newly married and being the best wife I could be. And part of that should have been getting out and, making friends and really overcoming all of those limiting beliefs.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, and I think part of it is that we don't know what we don't know,
Exactly.
right? Um, like because you've moved a few more times, you've moved since then, and now like your views, you've opened up your views and like be like, oh well, I could have made this a lot easier for myself, but in that moment, you just don't know. I
Right.
didn't when I was let's see, I was 22 when I moved completely away from home, and I had, well, 22, 23, and I had two little kids at home, like one 3 and one infant. Um, and I life was really hard for me, but knowing what I know now, it could have been completely different. So I feel like what you're sharing is so impactful and so valuable to the movers who are just starting out moving, because you're giving these tips of like to make their experience different, which is so powerful.
Thank you. Yes. I mean, if I could give advice to my younger self, I would, or somebody in that situation, but I wouldn't take back learning those lessons.
Yes, yes, 100%. So, how does the language that we use when we talk about our move impact the move itself?
Oh man, I'm huge about language. Our society is so focused on the negative. We have such a negative bias. It's everywhere and it's in our face every day, all day long. And that's a lot to overcome. And if you're raised in a home and you know, that's what's focused on, what's going bad, what's going to happen next, there's always something. Whatever that belief is, that's what you carry with you. So I'm not sure if you're really familiar with epigenetics. It's kind of a newer science. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm an expert, but I'm a little bit of a nerd. And so I love things like this. But epigenetics is the study of our gene expression. And we have these different genes in our DNA. And they've done studies that our thoughts will turn on or off certain genes. So your thoughts can actually change your DNA.
That's so
Along with our bodies are amazing. We are so wonderfully designed.
Mhm.
So what we eat, what we take in, absolutely everything that we bring into our mind, body, and soul is influencing how we act. So we have more control over how we feel and what we think and how we act than what we've been taught, which is amazing. I mean, we should really be thankful for that.
Mhm.
So, and it's hard. It is hard to change your thoughts from what you're used to thinking positive. I mean, that's much easier said than done, right? Well, why don't you just think positive? Like, how many times do you hear that? If it was so easy, more people would do it. That wouldn't be the default,
Right.
drama sells and negativity, and that is all really easy to focus on. So, and I've learned things from experience. I'm not going to sit here and tell people things that I haven't learned or been through myself. And I think that kind of that first period of moving and being away from home, I was more in that mindset. And I started kind of having some health problems early on in my marriage. And what I kind of noticed was the more I focused on the pain or whatever, the more it ran my life. And one day I just thought, I'm just focusing on this. Like, I have to stop. That's really, that's all that's consuming my thoughts.
Mhm.
So that's kind of when I first started noticing it. And after I was diagnosed with the autoimmune disorder, I really kind of noticed within the healthcare that I was receiving was that I wanted to stay positive and I wanted to see the light at the tunnel. And I think they were trying to give me reality checks to keep it realistic.
Mhm.
Well, I knew what they're, I knew I'd been to school. Like, I knew what I was facing. So that really led me to the discovery, like the part where I was like, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm in more control of this situation than anybody else wants to acknowledge.
Mhm.
And that's really faith-based. I'm not, I don't believe that I'm in complete control of myself, but I knew that God had a better way for me and that there was something better. And so I ended up finding EFT or tapping, which is a form of acupressure, which anybody can do. It's cost effective because all you need is yourself and to know just a few little tools. And I'll go over that a little bit more in a second. If you struggle with negativity, this is what a Bach flower looks like. I think there's a little bit of a glare, but this one is called white chestnut, and it helps with those negative thoughts that you just can't stop.
Is that like an oil or what is it?
It is a flower essence.
Oh.
So it's boiled in water.
Mhm.
But Dr. Bach believed that simplicity was best and that these were a gift from God and they should just be left that way. So he actually burned most of his research. So we really don't know how he came to the conclusion of how they work, which
Mhm.
I don't know. It's really fascinating to me. And what I found with the remedies where they gave me the relief to learn how it felt not to have those thoughts going around in my head.
Mhm.
And none of this is replacement for medical therapy or,
So that's something that you use to help reduce the negative thoughts?
yes.
Or
So if I find that I'm like on a merry-go-round of negative thoughts
mhm.
and they just won't stop, I'll put a couple of drops of white chestnut in my water and I'll sip it throughout the day. And all of this really has to do with growth and really wanting to be a better person. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this doesn't require some work and some recognition that you have work to do on yourself and that you're responsible for your own emotional health, you know.
Mhm.
So I love the Bach flower remedies, and they're super affordable. They're on average like $20, and they last a really long time because you only have to use a couple of drops in order for them to be effective.
Okay, cool.
So there's one for homesickness. It's called honeysuckle. It kind of helps you move past that feeling stuck in the past and really having that homesick feeling. I pulled out a couple just, and then walnut is for big changes, and mimulus for the fears.
And
So
what is for the fears?
mimulus, it's Mimulus.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one before.
Yeah. So a lot of people have heard of rescue remedy. It's the same. There are 38 remedies. And rescue remedy, a lot of people use, but these are the individual remedies that help bring us into the positive.
Very
I
cool.
needed help, I think, experiencing the positive side of things to really understand how that felt in order to move past what I had been used to living in,
Mhm.
if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah, you needed to experiencing something different to know what to go to, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
very cool. So when you started experiencing more positive thoughts about your moving situation, what did that look like?
Relief.
Hmm.
I think it was just, I felt like I found the better that I had been looking for. Because I did. I told myself, I was like, there has to be something better. There is something out there that I'm missing that I can do for myself to empower myself to do better, to think better, to feel better, to live life, to be the better me. And I just hadn't been shown the tools to do that, you know, and we all have our own things and how we do that. This is just how I do it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's some things, like a lot of things that people are searching for. They're like, okay, I want to be a self, like my self advocate and do what's best for me. Um, where do I look, right? Or what skills am I going to acquire to start living my best life?
Right. For sure. It's so important. And we really need to empower ourselves more and not be so dependent on others. I think that's kind of been an observation I've made through my experiences. And I feel so much better now that I have these tools.
Mhm.
And I'll circle back to the EFT. So that's an acupressure. So the first point is on the side of your hand.
And so EFT, is that something that you do to reduce stress
Yes,
or what?
I reduce stress, you can anxiety, pain. It's used for so many things. It's so useful. There are practitioners you can look up. I would make sure that they're certified. I'm certified through EFT International. They have, you know, standards that they
Mhm.
have to have, you have to meet for your certification, just like a nurse would, you know, for the state boards or whatever. You know, some people, because this is natural, some things are unregulated a little bit more so. And so there are areas people can get certified that they're not going to have as many tools as somebody who has been accredited.
Right, right.
Which I'm not saying that they can't get some relief, but there's just some things you want a practitioner for.
Right, right. Okay, so for those of you who are listening on the podcast who cannot see, we're going to start doing some what is it called?
It's EFT or tapping.
EFT.
The emotional freedom techniques, you can get a little bit deeper. You can go a little farther into healing with it. Tapping is what they call the EFT. That's just what everybody can do. So I'll kind of tell you where the points are since you can't see me.
Yeah, there will be, if you're listening on the podcast and you want to see the video, there's also this podcast video is going to be on YouTube. So you can go to my YouTube channel, Keisha Ellingson, and find the video there under the podcast playlist. Okay, take it away.
Okay, so do you want to do stress? That's a
Yes.
pretty common
Yes.
emotion for.
I would love to do like the stress reducing ones.
Okay, so since we're doing this, and there are other people who might be tapping along, we're just gonna kind of keep it. We like to rate things. And since rating 0 to 10 is something that people are pretty used to, we want to keep it under a 6. We don't want to go too intense because you can get a little into some things you really need to heal if you're going after something that's a 10. So right now, I would say my stress is maybe a 4 with the move. It's a little bit more than usual. So we'll go on the side of the hand, the fatty side of the hand. It used to be called the karate chop point. It's not anymore, but if that helps you kind of realize where it's at. And you can just tap the side of your hand with your other finger points, your opposite hand. It doesn't matter what hand you use. And we'll just start with a setup statement. And you can repeat after me, Keisha.
Okay.
We start off with, even though I'm feeling stressed.
Even though I'm feeling stressed.
That's just how I'm feeling right now.
That's just how I'm feeling right now.
And you can say that I totally and completely accept that.
And you can say that I totally and completely accept that.
Is that something, does it sound comfortable for you, Keisha?
It's like I totally and completely accept that.
Yes. Some people are like, I don't accept that. So we change it. But
yeah, that sounds good to me. Yep.
And we'll say it 2 more times, okay? And we'll just kind of check in as we go and notice that stress level. Even though I'm feeling stressed right now.
Even though I'm feeling stressed right now.
That's just how I'm feeling.
That's just how I'm feeling.
And I totally and completely accept that.
And I totally and completely accept that.
I'll say it one more time. Even though I'm feeling stressed right now.
Even though I'm feeling stressed right now.
It's just how I'm feeling.
It's just how I'm feeling.
And that is okay.
And that is okay.
And we'll go to the top of the head. It's the crown of the head, and it's right in the middle, on top of your skull. And tap
just
there.
Okay.
Let's say this stress.
Does it matter what hand?
No.
Okay.
Whatever you're comfortable with. And if you're comfortable with all your fingers, 2 fingers, it's really about the comfort for you.
Okay.
We'll go to the inside of the eyebrow, and you can use one or both hands. It's right on the inside of your eyebrow.
Okay,
Right where
up
your nose meets your eyebrow there.
Okay.
This stress.
This stress.
You may feel kind of silly at first with your first experience tapping on your face. That's okay. We'll go to the side of the eye. Or the corner of your eyes, like your temple. This stress.
This stress.
We'll go to.
Are you saying this or just stress?
This stress.
This.
Under the eye, right under the pupil and your cheekbones. This stress.
This stress.
And then under your nose, that little dent.
Mm-hmm.
From moving.
From moving.
And then under your lip, right on your chin, your bottom. It's causing me stress.
It's causing me stress.
And then we'll go down below the collarbone, still in line with the pupils. And you look forward. I feel stressed.
I feel stressed.
And then we'll go under the arm. It's right where the bra strap would be for women.
Okay.
I just want to let go of the stress
I just want to let go of the stress
just for right now.
just for right now.
And then we'll take a deep breath in and let it out. Keisha, I'm curious if you're noticing anything different.
Yeah, it was actually just relaxing and doing all those different tapping. And something that I've learned recently is that like when we have emotions, like we have to like name them and like realize them. Otherwise they don't get processed. So I feel like when you're saying like this stress, at first I was like, well, like maybe like, do I want to be sit like calling on? But then I was like, actually, that's probably beneficial. Is to just saying like, hey, I'm feeling stressed.
It can be. And if it's something that is overwhelming to you, if you notice when you're tapping and you really don't want to say it, you can just tap the points. It's not a big deal. Just tap the points and breathe. That's still going to reduce that stress. It actually sends signals to the brain to reduce cortisol that's pumping through your body, which is really cool. So there are studies on EFT. I know some people are really big on studies and research, and there's a wonderful doctor in Australia named PETA, P-E-T-A Stapleton, and she does a lot of research, and she's really leading a lot of the research in EFT. So it's a little strange, and so some people, I think it can be a little, I don't know, a little new and maybe a little awkward. So the research is coming and it's newer, and to really experience what tapping can do in your life and how it can really manage those emotions,
Yeah.
it's really helpful in my experience.
Yeah, it's a very I feel like it's unique because like I've never done it before either. And when I was tapping on my hand, I felt like my fingers just wanted to like be straight. Does that mean anything?
No,
No.
whatever is comfortable to you.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool. So do you use that technique like when you're feeling stressed, or do you use it with your kids? Kind of how do you use it in your world?
I do. I use it for myself. I use it for my kids to kind of regulate their emotions. I use it to get to sleep sometimes and just lay in bed, and you can just think about tapping on a point if you really don't feel like tapping, or you don't necessarily have to do it in that order. Some people like certain points better. And if for some reason those are the points that are comfortable, just tap on them. Um, I do. I use it all the time. The first time I had it done, I didn't know what was happening. I was totally unprepared for it. I went to a naturopath and he really didn't explain to me that it was EFT and it was this whole thing. I just knew that I got immediate relief from a really big problem. And I didn't know what this man, like how he just gave me so much relief in it. And I felt kind of silly because I was tapping on my hand and my face. And then all of a sudden I had like this terrible stress in my body and it was just gone.
Mm.
So now I'm probably look a little crazy. I'm always tapping on my face or my chest or the side of my hand whenever I'm walking around the house. And sometimes I do it while I'm driving safely. Of course, I don't tap on the side of my hand, but just some point sometimes just to kind of take off that stressful edge. Maybe you're in traffic or something, that is taking a long time or something.
Mhm. So, something I recently heard is that like when you do like shaking your arms or shaking your legs can reduce trauma. That's like those emotions of trauma that's been in your body. That because your body will hold on to emotions unless you process them. So is like tapping kind of the same where you're just kind of like releasing that stress.
It has an aspect of that to it. So these are acupressure points. They work on the meridians and they send electrical, when you're tapping, you're sending electrical impulses to your brain. It's just like touching and something like hot, goes to your brain and says, don't touch that. So what we did, we thought of stress of moving. So our brain was like, yeah, I know how that feels. I don't like that. This is how it feels. And so as we did that, we sent calming electrical impulses to our brain saying, it's okay. Yeah, we're experiencing this, but we have time to process it now. It's not happening right now. We're okay. We're safe. And so we're really turning off that fight or flight, decreasing the cortisol levels, and just really being able to shift our mindset. And so, and what you're speaking to, that goes back to the science of everything is vibrating. On an atomic level, everything is vibrating, including us. Well, emotions are even vibrations. So whenever we move or listen to music, exercise, when we get outside, it's all kind of equalizing and balancing us out. And so it's interesting, like you listen to like rock music or something that amps you up a little bit more. If you listen to Beethoven, the frequencies are different. And so that's why it's so much more calming. Anyway, I won't get too far off on that.
That's really interesting. Well, and that stuff affects every aspect of our life.
It does.
If we don't know how to handle stress or don't know how to reduce stress, we have a completely different outcome.
Right. I mean, all of this can help you with adapting to a move for sure, but it's also just helped me in general with everyday life.
Mhm. Yeah. So to jump back into some of the moving questions that we had prepared, how have well, because I know you've been separated from your family and then walked through some big issues that were stressful. Um, so how did you support yourself? Like, I know that you've used some of these techniques, but what other things did you use to do some self-care?
I used to go to the gym a lot, and that's a great way. If you can find a fitness buddy, or I'm a group exercise person. So that's what motivates me because it's on a schedule. I have to go meet people. So, and it also pulls me out of my introverted side. So I would go to the gym a lot. I found a gym here that I absolutely loved. So that was my big thing. Other than that, I just survived, to be completely honest. By the grace of God, I survived that. Um, it was just a time of just a lot of change. And it was rapid change all the time, constant transition.
Mhm.
So it was just, learning how, I think life has just been teaching me to slow down and
Mhm.
learn how to balance myself and the environment around me.
Yeah. Do you think that moving has made you stronger?
Absolutely. And I guess to kind of tie this into the last question too, I always, like, if I'm feeling super stressed or I know if I have a big change or I need something to get through, I always rely on Bible study. Like, I always go back to that. That's been the one unchanging thing of what can I learn spiritually through this that will help me grow and be better.
Mhm.
But yeah, I wouldn't be the person that I am today without moving. I am so thankful I did not stay home.
Mhm.
I wouldn't have had the growth that I've had today. I may have gotten stuck in one mindset and been that way the rest of my life. I'm so thankful that I've had the growth that I have.
Yes, 100%. And I feel like sometimes we don't realize that if we've been in one area all of our lives, like we don't realize that everybody has kind of the same view, right?
Mhm.
Until we're in a different area, in a different state, and exposed to those different kind of views.
Right. And that's a totally valid belief system for that area too, is what I've realized. That culture that's there is valuable, and it's true to them, which is fine. But I want to open myself up to different perspectives. And I think it's also helped me grow in a biblical way, because I've had to push myself and open up to different perspectives. And it's not just this one-sided
Mhm.
area of things.
Yeah. Could you speak a little bit more to how faith has impacted your moving journey?
I would actually say that moving has impacted my faith.
Mm,
I I've had so much spiritual growth by being in uncomfortable positions. That's when we grow the most. Whenever we're resistant, there's something to be taught, or uncomfortable, there's something we need to learn about ourselves. And I think that's been one of the biggest lessons.
mm. Yeah. That's been also similar, like very similar to my story. Um, when I've had the most growth in my relationship with God was when I was going through such a hard time moving. And
Mhm.
in some ways, I think it's a clarity because all the things, like our comfort things, are kind of stripped away. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's like a view of like, okay, where am I at? And okay, God, I need your help. Like,
Yeah, you're really only that's what you're left with.
mhm, yeah, yeah. So the Bible studies that you went to, did you do them alone or did you connect with local people in your new area?
So that was a little bit of a struggle too, was
Mhm.
the things that I wanted to grow in. I I really did by myself. I I did find Club 31 Women. I did her podcast and her blog for a long time. That kind of really started me off. But it was just something too that I didn't really find in this area at the time. There's a lot of stuff now. It's like it's grown and it's great. But at that time, there weren't as many people here. But I would do it after my kids went to bed.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's also similar. Like I I was afraid to connect too at first. Um, and then some of like my really connection was just journaling out how I felt, journaling, like reading, journaling about it. And I felt like for a while he was like my only friend, you know, connecting with God. And um, yeah, I feel like no matter which way that you connect is powerful.
Oh, for sure. I do think that there's definitely value in fellowship. And
Mhm.
I did try, it was just with the military focus and what I was struggling with, no one could relate to. And so they couldn't guide me. And I think it was kind of one of those things too, that God was kind of like, you need to learn how to do this yourself. Like
Yeah.
like sometimes you have to do it, which
Mhm.
is fun. And sometimes that's part of our purpose, right? So we can learn how to walk somebody else through it.
Yes, 100%. Um, so for the people who are listening today, how can they connect with you on social media?
So I just started a Facebook group called Believing in Better with Kelsey. That's something I'm passionate about. We're not perfect. We just need to do better. And then on Instagram, yes, on Instagram, Refine and Elevate is where you can find me on there. I'm going to get all of this rolling. It's might look a little bit different since we're going to be traveling in an RV. So
Mhm.
please be patient with that. And I plan on posting some tapping videos and things to tap along with on Patreon.
Oh, that would be amazing too. And for listeners, I will have all of these details in the show notes. So if you want to go and connect with Kelsey, just check out the show notes and the links will be there. So Kelsey, let's end our conversation with one last encouragement for the listeners.
I think simplicity is best. And so just simply think good and it will be good.
Mm. Yes, awesome. Well, thank you, Kelsey, for coming on the podcast. It was a great conversation.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. And thank you to all the listeners.